Welcome back, beautiful people. This is another episode of An Untold Narrative where we host creators, artists, designers from all over the globe. And today's guest is no different. She joins us from Denver. Her name is Whitney Holbourn. She's an artist, a creator, a muralist. Whitney, welcome to the show. We've never spoken before.
Yeah, I know, first time, but you feel very familiar. I feel like I've known you for a while, so.
Thank you for taking the time. I did some research. I looked through pretty much the history of your artwork on social media.
Mhm.
I looked through your
Oh,
Instagram,
nice.
and I want to
Yeah.
say, like,
What'd
and
you think?
start with this, that like you've always been artistically talented, but I feel like the past like 3, 4, 5, 6 years, your art has
Mhm.
tremendously gotten so much better. Is there
Yeah,
is it just practice, or like what has been like this like rise of like your artwork? Because it's really beautiful and it's like
thank
perfected, it
you.
feels like.
Yeah. Um, yeah, for sure. A lot of my friends tell me that too, that have known me for a while. I've really come up like the last 4 or 5 years, I want to say. But I think it is practice basically or experience. I've been kind of doing wall to wall to wall, back to back. Um, and honestly, muralists are really great problem solvers. So it's just like I think with natural experience, you just naturally grow. So it's like that, and also I really want to test myself and challenge myself every time I do a new project. So whenever you challenge yourself, you're always going to naturally grow from that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad I'm not the first person to recognize that and mention that about your work, because
Yeah, that's
it
definitely
really
my
is.
friends have known me forever.
It really is it's remarkable to see. I'm such a fan of muralists, and that's why like I've had a few on the show. It's something I hope to be able to
Mhm.
do myself one day. Is there a reason why you got into mural art? Like what take us back a few years, and like how did you get into it, and like why do you do that now? Like it feels like full time. I don't know if that's the case or not.
It is, yeah, it is full time for sure. Yeah, I don't have time for much else. But so I got into murals honestly, like I started painting the first time I showed ever professionally, like not just doing stuff for friends, was in 2014 in Tampa. And I was just a acrylic painter, did canvases. And I'd never even thought about like using spray paint as my medium because it's honestly very intimidating. I'm sure a lot of artists agree with that just because of how fast it comes out. And, it's just like really kind of a scary way to apply paint. And so I never really thought about it, but I got into it because when I started painting in Tampa, I met one of my art mentors, and her name's Becky Biakis. She's amazing. But she would tell me, that people are very visual, so people are really attracted to bigger paintings. So like when I paint, like to paint big. And so when I was just painting with acrylics and brush, I would always paint like really big. And then my first year at Art Basel was in 2018. And I did a brush mural there, mostly brush. And I met just a bunch of, it was my first time experiencing like that whole community together like that. So to see, people, not just painting big, but they're painting huge and they're doing it very quickly. And people aren't even going to galleries to see that work. They're just going to work and seeing that big. So I kind of met some artists down there. They taught me a few tips and tricks and stuff, but yeah, I told myself I had to learn how to spray paint. So it's kind of been mostly self-taught for sure.
That's thank you for sharing that journey.
Yeah.
You mentioned the mentor aspect of it, and there's a lot of creators that listen to this podcast, a lot of young creators, whether regardless of the
Yeah.
background. And mentorship in 2024 is such a strange topic. It's really hard to find somebody that like is just in your corner. And so like
Yeah.
how did you meet them? Like what is that relationship like? What have they taught you? Like is there one or two things that come to mind?
Oh, absolutely. Like, so I didn't actually start paint. I didn't think it was even possible to be a painter full time, growing up, just, not having the most means, and just, it's not the most reliable or logical thing to follow, or stable thing. So I spent a lot of time doing other things. But when I moved to Tampa, I think I went through a breakup or something, and I was just like, I'd already been painting for some people, but I had met a few, like my art mentors just kind of in the community here. And I kind of, when that was going on with me, I kind of just went full into painting. And I was hanging out with them all the time, and seeing how much they cared about art. And we just got really close. So that's kind of how we met. I just kind of started going and like hanging out with them mostly, and painting. And, when you hang around people that are that focused and that driven with their art and passionate, like you really feed off that energy. Like you want to, like, if it's something you want to do, like it makes you kind of want to do it more and better. And so I kind of met them organically like that in Tampa. But yeah, honestly, if I didn't meet them, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, to be honest with you. I've never met people that are like, no, yeah, you can definitely do that. People are making money doing so many different weird things that are niches, like, and they're making money. Why can't you do art? Um, so yeah, I think, yeah, she actually, Becky and Kim, they taught me a lot. She, she was like, if somebody else is making this, why can't you do it? She's like, if you make enough noise, Whitney, people are going to hear you, but it made me realize that, I spent so long not thinking I could do it full time. So I wasn't really making any noise. I wasn't trying. And it's like one of the biggest things, I've learned is that you kind of just have to put yourself out there, and the first step is having like absolute belief you can do it. You got to start with that first, because if you don't, you're already limiting yourself. And that's pretty much what a lot of people do for so long. And that's why a lot of people don't get to see those opportunities, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And you mentioned something, as you were speaking of not coming from or growing up without a lot of means to things, and like a lot of people get trapped in that, right? Like they have a tough
Yeah,
upbringing, or they don't come from
I did for
money.
sure.
And like so how do you transition out? How do you change your mindset? Like, is it really just a matter of being around other people who are like inspiring you?
I mean, for me, yeah, because it was with reason to feel that way or think that way or think you need to work a 9 to 5. But I mean, that's a very valid reason. You got to pay your bills and live, and that's a big reason why I did it for so long. But when I met these people, they were telling me that they started every conversation with like, you can do this, you can do this. Not only that, but I've seen it, like, coming up in Tampa that long ago, with a lot of them, it's just like, it wasn't that they were just saying it, I was seeing it happen. I was seeing the hustle and the work they were doing, and I was seeing the rewards in it. And for me personally, I can't speak for everything, but yeah, I mean, being around people and seeing the possibilities, like, and not having everyone around me, not necessarily limiting me in a bad way or being mean about it, but just encouraging it definitely helps for sure.
That's
Definitely.
so
And that's why, like, I love talking about this stuff, because if they would have never talked to me about it, like, I wouldn't, they like changed my life for forever. So, and if it just took that, like, I try to be that for people. You know what I mean?
that's that's so cool. I think from my perspective, one thing I've noticed from really like secondhand smoke of the art, like the artist community and the muralist
Yeah.
community is, a lot of times if you're doing this full time, like you can't do all the murals that get offered to you. And so you'll put other people on. You'll be like, I know this
Oh
person
yeah.
who would do a rock star job at it. And then you're able to help your friends, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The more you dive into the community, yeah, you're definitely, there's so many people that, everything's word of mouth for me by now. You know what I mean? It's like you do one job and you meet people, and then you get a good reputation on that, and then somebody else wants to hire you. So at this point, yeah, it's the community has really brought me up, and I've tried my best to do the same for sure. It's awesome. Because you want to succeed all together, right? It's not fun, like,
Yeah, no,
achieving
I,
things
I think,
without having other people with you doing it.
yeah, I mean, if you're just surrounding yourself with a solid group of people, I think the challenge for most creators is finding that group. But I think it loops back to what you said earlier, is just putting yourself out there, and then you will attract other people with like minds to you. One mural that I wanted to highlight or specifically bring up that I read about and I wasn't familiar with is you painted a mural of Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. It would be awesome if you can just like share that story, the why behind it, and then like, obviously, it's so powerful hearing, or reading about it, and like you painted another face to it, and you'll continue to add to it if that continues to happen. So it'd be awesome to kind of just hear the full
Yeah.
story behind it.
Okay, so that story is that story, that wall was it was one project I got to work on that was like bigger than I thought it was, or bigger than me. Like it was just a bigger part of a huge movement, obviously. But there's a lot to that story. But as far as like getting covered, yeah, we did it, and a year to the day that we painted it. I don't know if you know the group, the Patriot Front.
No, I'm
Have you
not
heard of
familiar.
them? It's like the Proud Boys, like yeah, they're a pretty big protest movement on that side, and they came in, like they like rigged a fire extinguisher and just like they got all the way up on top of the wall and everything and just sprayed it with blue paint. It just got like everywhere. But as far as redoing it, so that wall was, I was highly involved in the protests in Denver, and we found some, we found a lot of good that came from the protests. Another time for that, sorry. But I was like, okay, I've been doing it, here. I'm from Louisville, so I wanted to kind of do something in my hometown for that. And I wanted to donate my time and everything. Like, it was never paid. Probably no one got paid on it. It's all donated. We actually, for that wall, everything was donated by the people. We did GoFundMe's for the initial job, and I mean, I think total, and then we did another GoFundMe for after it got vandalized, and I think total between the two GoFundMe's we raised like over $12,000
Oh, wow.
for paint and lifts, and yeah, and it was completely donated. We when we first did it, we held like a huge food drive. We did like an event where we had a local choir come out for the whole city. So it was definitely a community project. It definitely wasn't me. It was built by the people for sure. But yeah, somebody had vandalized it, and we went back and painted it.
That
And as far as adding face, so like I kind of got the idea. Me and my friend Braylon, his name's Resco. He's a Louisville writer, one of my really good friends. But we were painting it, and I looked at him, and I was like, man, like people come and destroy this for like negative reasons, hateful reasons, and it was built like by the people with love, and I was like, what would piss them off more? We're not just gonna fix it, but what would make them like even more mad, to show them that they can't like do that kind of stuff. And there was actually a Louisville protest leader that has passed away, and we decided to put him up on the front. So, and we clear coated the shit out of it.
no, it's
So
it was
if they want to do it again, it won't be as hard to paint over. But for something like that, like those are in my experience. Like I've had high contracts, I've had low contracts. But some of the two of the most important projects I've done, I didn't make any money for. The most fulfilling. So yeah, it was a really cool project for sure.
yeah, no, I'm really
If
happy.
they want to cover it again, I'll go back over it. I don't care.
I'm really happy we got a chance to give it a couple minutes for people to either go look it up. You can Google your name and it'll come up pretty much. But
Yeah.
it's such a cool story and mural, and obviously, like you said at the beginning, it's bigger than you, and that's what really makes it special. I want to say I just wanted to bring up, you mentioned doing work for free, and that's something that is a huge topic amongst all creators, regardless of your field, if it's painting or if it's design or
Oh,
really
absolutely. Any
content
creative.
creator. Like, how do you manage doing work for free versus like getting paid gigs?
I don't really. I'm very fortunate to have hustled enough to like. I don't really do a lot of free work anymore. Um, I definitely, I think with creative jobs, anyone, you kind of look up to, they've kind of paved their own route, and how they get there and what they accept, what they don't. Um, so I think everyone has to cross that bridge, and I definitely did it when I first started, for sure. But when you look at it, when you're beginning and you do stuff for free, you're also building your portfolio, your skill level. If it's something you really want, you just keep up with it. But as far as how I handle it now, I mean, with murals, it's different because every wall varies on how you get it, where the funding is coming from. A lot of projects I get from word of mouth from friends and stuff. So depending on who the client is, like, I'm always willing to work with a budget, but I definitely don't do anything for free anymore. But it's one of those things that with what we do, our creative jobs, it's when you go to a really good art school, or if you want to be a doctor first, let's say you go to school, you do the hours, and you're a doctor and you're making money, and you're living off of that money and income. Accountant, same thing. But when you're an artist, you could go to the best art school in the world and you get out. That doesn't mean you're going to get this like 6-figure job. So I think it's more about like what you feel comfortable doing and how much that's going to benefit you in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a I've never heard that analogy towards artists, but I think you're 1,000% correct. And like,
Yeah.
why the hate towards artists of having to do unpaid work?
Yeah, I think it's just for some reason this general consensus. I mean, obviously I think it's changing a lot with social media and like these influence, and people are realizing you can do more, and especially with social media. I mean, before I did walls full time, I made 100% myself on Instagram.
Mm,
I kind of look at it as a job. I look at it as a great tool for artists, but I think generally people just they think about art and they're, oh, anyone can do it or this or that, or which is not true, obviously. But it's just, I think generally as a whole in society, not looked, I think people are always looking to cut down artists, like
mm,
say you go for a wall, or if I go on a bigger project, like let's say $50,000 project or $100,000 project, and I'm getting, the measurements and I'm trying to get them a quote, they want, oh, well, can you measure everything? Can you design something? And then we'll talk about pay. And like, a lot of people want artists to do work for free first before they pay them. And then that's when a lot of artists get, kind of sidetracked or scammed, because then they do this free work and then people pull out or something. But, say that same building that I'm trying to do this big project on needs, like, they have a plumbing issue. They
mm,
call a plumber. Plumbers aren't even going to come out there unless you give them some money to check it out. You know what I mean? So
right.
I think it's just a general consensus, which is sad, but I do think it's changing, honestly.
Yeah, no, it for sure is, and I think 2024 is the year that creators can be the new athlete, right? Like that's like the
Yeah.
mindset, and I think that's
Oh,
that
absolutely.
you're spot
Yeah.
on with saying that social media has changed a lot and given people a lot more opportunities. One one thing that you were hinting on is like, you might run into issues or things like that on a job. What's been the toughest thing that you've had, or one of the toughest things that you've had to go through for a job, or trying to get work, or a moment in your creative career so far?
Like to get a job, or like just on a job site.
Just in general,
I
like
mean, dude,
anything.
there's so many. I mean, there's every wall is so different. Every project is so different. There's so many variables for every project. But I've had to paint on like 2.5 foot ledges with like nothing behind me, and like so I've had to do like really unsafe things
Oh my God.
that I what I mean? Yeah. So there's like kind of stuff like crazy stuff like that. I mean, there's clients that can be terrible. I mean, then there's like like the Breonna Taylor wall I did, which just was like, that was a roller coaster of emotions and just, crazy situations and stuff. But, I mean, I don't think I've really went through anything bad because, like I said, it's all challenging, and there's no real class that you can sit down and like, oh, if this goes wrong or this happens, how do you deal with this client, or how do you do this? Like, you kind of have to just throw yourself into the fire and like figure it out. And that's kind of where your confidence and your skills and experience like comes from it. So I think you have every weird or crazy experience I've worked through. So I haven't had any that's like, been too bad or anything. I haven't had like a lift break or anything. That'd be kind of bad.
I mean, it's a two and
But
a half a
yeah,
2.5 foot ledge is pretty terrifying as somebody's scared of heights like myself.
yeah, it would. Yeah, I think that was like it was one of my first murals I did. It was at Art Basel, like the second year I went. But I was super stoked on the spot, and I didn't have funding for any scaffolding or anything. So I was like, you know what, it's fine. But honestly, like it was really terrifying. But I think I was like 15 feet up in the air. It was terrifying, but like I got so used to my bearings that by the end of it, I was just like running up and down, like, really easily. And you don't think about it. But even on that ledge, I couldn't even reach like the top of it. I had to put milk crates down on the ledge and like stand on the milk crates and like, yeah. But
Wow.
not advised, obviously. But it's definitely those are you're kind of like earning your stripes then, and it kind of it builds your confidence for sure.
You
But I take it as they come, so I haven't had anything too bad.
No, that's really great to hear because
Yeah,
especially in a challenging field like art and murals, like good things happen to good people. And so like you've clearly done
yeah,
a good job at managing that. You did talk about Art Basel real
trying.
quick, which is like the
Mhm.
mecca for any sort of creator to like be part of.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned before we started rolling that you were just there even recently. And so
Hmm.
talk about your experience with Art Basel. Like how do people get a part of that? Because it's like famous people go there to check out all the art. Like
Yeah.
it's like VIPs everywhere. It's like, what is that experience like?
Art Basel, I like compare it to like it's like my Burning Man. People are obsessed. They work for all year. If they all the burners, they look forward to it. Like that's what Art Basel is to me, and I'm sure it is for like a lot of creators. But honestly, I lived in Tampa, for a few years, like 2012, 2016. But I went to Art Basel. I didn't really even know what it was, but I went to Art Basel's before I ever started painting, just kind of as a patron. But it's just citywide, and there's like so much going on. So like going there and not really understanding it, it was I didn't really understand what was going on, but I didn't hear about it or even think about doing it again or really understanding how big it was until I moved to Denver, and it was 2018, and there was two friends of mine that I knew through other art outlets, I guess, that I worked with, and they had gotten a building down there. Long story short, they'd gotten a building and wanted to bring some Denver artists down there. And I went down there, and, it's a very long story, but Art Basel's like, and I don't mean to bring up Burning Man again, but it's Art Basel, like, if you're there and in it, like you get destroyed and created again there. It's like a very high intense like environment and you learn so much from it. Every Art Basel, no matter how prepared you are, it's just like so much stuff goes on or happens last minute. But yeah, I went that first year and actually I almost left because I had some crazy situations happen there, and I was having the worst time ever, and I was being very challenged, I guess. Not to get into too much, but yeah, I almost left, but I had a good friend that kind of threw some tissues at me. She's like, "You're staying. We'll get you wall, whatever." And so I ended up staying and meeting a bunch of other like old school like writers and stuck it through. And I honestly met a lot of people there that I'm connected with now, and they're doing big shit, and like we're all kind of all in this community together, and it's just a very good place to meet connections and longtime friends, and motivation. And then I've been doing it every year since then, and it's just the more I've gotten into the community, it's like so much fun now. You go down there and like you're surrounded by all your friends that you see just randomly throughout the year, and everyone's down there for the same thing, and you meet so many artists, and you meet artists, artists you look up to or just hanging out, like on the streets painting. So it's my favorite thing ever, as hard as it can be sometimes.
Yeah, no, in my I've been there twice, and in my experience, it's you're right. It's so motivational and inspirational to be around so many other
Yeah,
creators, and like you
yeah,
always
absolutely.
see better work. It feels like it's like every year it gets better and better.
Yeah. Well, at least for me, when I'm around energy like that, it makes me want to like, it's like, it's not competition at all, but it motivates me to get there too. You know what I mean? I want to be at that level too. You know what I mean? And when you're around that, and especially being in Miami, which already has so much energy anyways, it's just this crazy ball during that time, like perfect weather. It's a really good time. And I think it was my fifth or sixth year this year, and I was helping out with Win Win Mural Festival, and I did a wall for them as well. But the homies that run it, and everyone's just hanging out. Like I was there for 2.5 weeks,
Oh my God.
like a week, yeah, like a week leading up to it. And but you're just there, like hanging out before like the storm, like you're hanging out with all your homies, and everyone's making art and talking about art and doing art, and I don't know, it's cool. Yeah, it's
Uh,
definitely a boost in not really confidence, but a boost in motivation, I guess.
For sure. Yeah, no, for sure. One thing that I think you've done really well, just again, for the first time, I'm just researching, kind of some of the things that you've been able
Yeah,
to do in your career. It's you've had multiple apparel drops. It's something that I wanted to just like
yeah,
bring up for the audience because it's like you're
yeah,
not in this one bucket of just creating murals. It's like you wanted to expand your artwork and your like lens of physical products even. And so
yeah,
what's been that process like of it seems like you've done leggings, you've done hats, you've done, shirts and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
what's that process like for you as somebody who doesn't necessarily come from physical product?
Yeah. Well, so honestly, like before I've done mural full time. I've only been doing that for like a couple of years, but when I was just painting and I started in Tampa, I would do prints and everything, but I actually have some really good friends, or some of my best friends here, that had like uh a print shop, but they were doing for clothing or whatever, just like printing on top, like nothing like handmade or anything, but um and they were doing that, and they're like, hey, if you ever want your art on clothing, you can, we'll do it for you, yeah, and we can just take a percentage of the sales, whatever. And this was way before this was like 2012 to 2016. And so I got into it just from knowing other creatives, like we've been talking about. And they really wanted to try some stuff out. And so I would send them my art, and they do the designs and print the leggings. And it was a little bit on the smaller scale because it was all print to order. But that's kind of how I got into that. But before I was doing walls full time, I was kind of trying to find other outlets to make money on the back end, other than just creating art. And it just kind of fell in my lap, and it's kind of led me to want to do that stuff more, but kind of maybe get more into the custom stuff. I did that with them, and then I moved to Denver a few years later, and I honestly got just in. I don't know if you know the company Grassroots.
No, not familiar.
No, yeah. So I was honestly, before COVID, I was in the like kind of festival circuit, like art scene, putting my name out there. And Grassroots is a clothing company, and they're pretty well known and established. They're huge sponsors of some of these like huge festivals, but yeah, they're based out of Colorado. So I honestly, right when I moved to Denver, I got connected with the photographer. She doesn't work there anymore, but she did time, and and they're on a larger scale. They've got like a huge following, and working with them obviously got me a lot of attention from their crowd, or their that market, I guess. Yeah, and so she asked me. I got in touch with her, and she asked me to do like a photo shoot for them, and then she asked me to go work one of the festivals. And she's like, "Oh, we can't pay you, but you can sell your art at our booth." And so that was a big deal for me because of who they were. And so I was like, okay, cool, everything's free, that'll be fun. And did that, and then kind of stayed in touch with them, and they asked me to be a part of a woman's show, like a woman's collection, one of their shows that they were doing every month in Denver. And I ended up selling both of my pieces, and they ended up offering me a solo show like the
Oh
next
wow.
year. And yeah, and then when you get a solo show, you also get an offer for them to make a couple pieces of clothing, and their stuff is very high quality. And I honestly wanted them to make joggers, and like I would do a hat because they are known for hats, and then joggers, and they kind of fought me on it a little bit, but I got them to make them, and they turned out to be some of their best selling joggers ever. So
So cool. What an awesome story. I mean, so it sounded like just like you, again, doing something even micro for free and it led to something bigger.
yeah, yeah, and it's like unfortunate that that's how this industry is, but I mean, sometimes you just, I mean, starting out, and honestly, like I did that, I took it, but I didn't just take it and assume I'd get something. Like I made sure to be on my game, get my prints made, get them wrapped, like have what I needed to go so that I could do it and still make money, and I wasn't gonna, I had to, you know, work on top of it. It's just it was a free opportunity, but I had to make sure that like it wasn't for nothing, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. What's do you
Make it
think
count.
about the future, and like do you even like at the start of this new year, like is there anything that you want to accomplish this year that you haven't been able to do, or something you think about in the future that you want to tackle, whether it's more product or more murals or going international? Like is there anything at the top of your mind that you want to tackle?
Um, you know, definitely always. I don't think that's ever gonna end. I always want to do more. I mean, I've done some kind of stuff I never thought I could do already. But it makes me just want to do bigger things. Like I definitely want to sign big contracts, bigger contracts than I've signed. That's always awesome. But I really want to get in because, I'm not a writer. I really want to get into like doing letters, as far as like personal goals. Like try and learn some tagging and stuff like that. But so I want to do that. I definitely traveling, mural festivals. But honestly, as far as that goes, I've been doing wall to wall to wall, so I haven't had time to work on like a lot of personal work. And I usually do canvases, but I'm trying to find the balance of like doing personal work so I can. My goal is to have a solo show because I haven't had one in like since I think like 2017 maybe.
Oh wow.
So I want to have one with personal work, but I'm always trying to level up. I'm always trying to learn new skills. So I've been teaching myself like the jigsaw, and I've been doing woodcuts, like woodcut
Okay.
pieces. Yeah, I don't know if you know who Alex Janis is, but he does like these amazing woodcut pieces, huge installations. But he kind of inspired me. But I've been picking that up, and I've been making some like cool shit with that. So I really want to have a solo show with that stuff, and get a lot better at like woodworking and stuff. Just it's just because it's like I've been doing wall to wall to wall, but honestly, and I've been so fortunate, and it's pretty consistent, but it is still contract work. So there are times where I could be wall 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 wall, and then there's like 3 or 4 months in between, and so that kind of makes me want to just figure out how to monetize everything on the back end so that I can still work on my work and have stuff coming in at the same time. So I think with a new collection, I could do clothing again. I could do, prints. I could do like so much other stuff with that could, kind of satisfy that goal.
Yeah, no, well, cheers to your solo show, hopefully this year, and if not next year, then I can't wait
Yeah.
to see that. Um, is there,
Yeah.
I
It's
like
gonna
to ask this question to a lot of the guests, as just an inspiration point. Obviously, you've seen some success in your career so far. Is
Thank you.
there one piece of advice that you like always go back to when you're like, either in burnout or you're in a tough moment, or whatever it is there like one piece of advice that you would leave to the audience, in the last couple minutes here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think when you get in a moment like that, I think being a creative, and this isn't taken negatively, but I feel like you have to have this like constant delusional like self belief in yourself that you're there and you can do it. Because being an artist and not having that stability, when you get low, it's like really low, and you start being like, oh, should I get a real job? Should I do this? You know what I mean? Should I get like something stable? But I think you kind of have to like hold on to that like belief in yourself. At this point in my career, I definitely tell myself I've come this far. Like I don't really have the other option. So and that's another point. I think when you stop giving yourself another option, you stop relying on that. So when I get, kind of in a rut or creative, block or whatever, I just remind myself that I've come really far. And one of the biggest things, especially when I started, whenever something intimidates me or I'm feeling a certain way like that, I always remind myself that, you know, there are other people that do this and have achieved so much more and continue to work on themselves. And if they can do it, I can too. And I know that they go through the same thing, but they have like something inside of them that like keeps pushing them. So yeah, if I would just tell myself that, like, other people can do it, why can't you?
I
you
think
know?
that's amazing advice, and that's definitely unique to you. I haven't heard that yet, so I love that
Oh,
perspective.
nice. Yeah. Thanks.
Whitney, thank you
So
so
it's
much
all we
for
got.
thank, thank you. I mean, there's no better way to wrap up the episode. This has been so special, and I appreciate all your insights and
Oh, thank you.
sharing.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Of
Anytime.
of course, where can people follow along your journey? Check out your artwork, anything like that.
Definitely my Instagram. Yeah. So just, Instagram, Whitney Holbourn, just my name. So like Whitney Houston,
Perfect.
spelled the same, and then Holbourn, HOLBOURN.
Okay,
So
perfect. We'll plug it in there, and so everybody go check out her work. And thanks again for doing this.
yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. It was a good talk.